Welcome. My name is Holly. I am your virtual career coach. I am the founder of hollylee.co VIP. Please do smash that subscribe button. If you do that, YouTube algorithm will really love me. So let's talk briefly about the job market. Where is it at as of right now? This is coming out of Business Journal. I like Business Journal, Business Insider, Wall Street Journal. So a lot of those business websites are real-time data, meaning that they actually look at the employment rate through the government's websites. They do a lot of research with organizations so that the market is definitely cooling down a little bit. Many small business owners are still struggling to fill the job positions. Let's talk about why they are still struggling in filling positions. Because a lot of the folks are going through the same positions. In my honest opinion, this is just purely based off of personal experience. It doesn't matter if it's a small organization, a mid-size, or the Amazon, Google in the world, the big apples. They're struggling a little bit because one, there's so many talent right now going and tapping through the same talent pool, which is applying to the same rec. If you're a software engineer or program manager, I'm getting a lot of program managers lately, program product managers, you're applying to the one job, assume that there's at least a few thousand, if not 500,000 people applying to the same role, depending on the company. So I talked so much since the beginning of this year, 2023, about my job search strategies of not just applying to a job, especially when you're a program manager. You heard the numbers. It's very high. Even prior to the recessions, I jumped into an event where I was hanging out with the head of talent, the VP of Tesla, Yahoo, Google was there as well. And we talk about how many people applied to a single rec. And everyone talked about the personal experiences where there are about 1 million applicants, just software engineering alone. I'm talking about a generic developer. Now imagine program managers or business analysts. So a lot of people now, it's even a lot worse than when I was hanging out with those talent leaders we're talking about 3 years ago. So giving you guys a little sense of where the high volume of talent pool is and going to same rec, which means you should probably stop applying to job and adding on to the million applicants like everyone else. So everyone is fishing at the exact same pond. So what exactly are you doing differently? Please do not tell me you apply to jobs on job boards, being creative, or LinkedIn, or directly on an employee's website. It is the same thing. Last week, I released a video on the 4 job search tools. I talk about 3 of the job boards platform, which is Glassdoor, Levels FYI, and Indeed.com. I'll show you a graph from Wall Street Journal and Business Journal in a little bit as well. So the reason why I wanted to share this with you is that I have not met a single person, virtually that is, who actually reaches out to me where your message is not all the same. They're all the same, guys. Every single one of Holly, I applied to so many jobs. I haven't heard from the recruiter. I reach out to, ABC recruiters and I never hear back from them because they are probably laid off and they're not with the employers anymore. Go check out my video. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, if you go to my main YouTube channel, which you are on right now, it is called my top 4 job search tool. In there, each and every single one of them, I talked about how to job search, how to look for the market salary of what your worth is. This is a graph from the Wall Street Journal. The job market boom, is it really over? Here's why and what it means. I wouldn't say it's completely over right now in personal experiences. This is not the first recession I've seen through. If you look at the graph here, you can tell that there is a tremendous drop from the laid off in 2021. It spiked up in 2022, which means a lot of famed employers, the Amazon, Google, Meta, went through their second round of layoff, but it's kind of cooling down a little bit. It's going down. You want the graph to go down, not go up, spiking high. And you can tell that the graph has actually dropped. Job growth has returned to pre-pandemic trends. Right now, you can tell it's kind of steady right now as of September. And that is the last bar of the graph that you see right here. I have one more graph, and this is really interesting. This right here is interesting. It says earnings and employment rates by educational background. If you take a look at this right here, interesting thing is if you have less than a high school diploma, and high school, basically, the numbers are fairly about 1%-ish difference. But from the moment you go to an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree, there's really not a whole lot of difference if you look at the data. If you look at a master's degree and associate's degree, look at this. It's like about 1% or so. It's not that much a difference. So what I'm trying to tell you, if you're really struggling and thinking about going back to school to get a bachelor's degree, or you think that getting a master's degree is going to land your job, there's really not much of a difference if you look at the graph here. If you look at doctorate degree, so if you get a PhD versus getting a bachelor's degree right here, look at that. It's like a 1% difference, really. 1. 1.2%. That's not a whole lot of difference. I talked about how important is having an education. It is important, absolutely, right? You need at least a high school diploma if you look at the graph here. But if you really want to get noticeable as of today, you have to come in with some type of job experience. If you don't have any job experiences or any relevant experiences, then you would need to come in with a bachelor's degree of any kind just to show that you are educated, that you put some effort into your career. It's also allowing the employer to know that you're ambitious. Again, everything I talk about is based on my experiences of being in the industry and every folks that I've helped around the world, and also being an entrepreneur of my own outside of working for a lot of these Matang companies. I thought this was really, really interesting. The big kicker for me is having a PhD, a doctorate degree, and having a bachelor's degree. There's not a whole lot of different here. I don't want you to waste $100,000 going back to get your master or PhD just because you think that everyone has a bachelor. You're going to stand out if you have a PhD. Not really, not so much. It's all depending on where you come from. You don't have to come from the big giant company for an employer to look at you, invite you to a job interview, right? The secret here is having the right brand, having a brand that actually represents your core strength, meaning what have you done, what have you delivered, and how do you execute on a piece of paper called your resume, aka your CV, and having a LinkedIn profile before you reach out to folks or comment on anyone in or outside of your network, because the first thing they see, and I talk about this on every single one of my networking video for this entire year, by the way. If you haven't followed me yet, you want to, which is right here. My star download is the most innovative thing I've ever done during my time at Amazon. There's no catch. The only thing is I will send you an email if there's a live stream coming or there's free coaching. I also left a link of my playlist specifically on today's topic, which is networking, landing job, and even job search. They're gathering a lot of CVs so that when they're ready, they have backup candidates. Yes, absolutely, hands down. I say that because it would be smart for a company. Number one, they have already paid for a 30, 60, or 90-day job posting. It's already paid for, so why should they put the posting down? They might as well collect your credential so that when things are booming up or cooling off, they have a pipeline of people. Even though, let's just assume that they have wiped out all the recruiting team, they still have a portfolio of candidates. But there are still companies who are hiring. It is true. There are some companies that are collecting resume. I know that because I work for a lot of these companies. I don't want to name drop, but the smart thing for an organization to do is to always have a solid pipeline, which means you shouldn't stop connecting with hiring managers. And that's more reason with what I've just mentioned to stop applying to jobs. If you reach out to hiring managers, at least they know your name and they have a connection. They all ask for a computer science bachelor for an SSE role in fame, but I only have a master's degree in completed different fields. Do you think it's a problem even with 10 years of XP? I don't think it's a problem, especially when you have 10 years of experience. Let me explain myself. I have worked with director level, a bar raiser level 7, senior program manager at Amazon with 0 degrees, 0, not even an associate's degree, not even so. And that individual was with Amazon for a long time, but he was hired as a level 6, just an FYI. I personally have had recruiters reporting to me with no college degree and have worked for most, if not majority of the FANG companies. As mentioned earlier on the graph of education, the graph shows that the difference between having a doctorate degree or PhD versus a bachelor is about 1%. So the biggest difference between having a high school diploma and a bachelor's degree is about 1.5%. So that's not a whole lot of a difference with the current unemployment rate. It's all about what you're bringing on the table with your experiences. How do you network with a recruiter without coming off as needy? I mentioned over and over again every single week that you don't reach out to a recruiter. The biggest reason, they most likely are not with the employer that they say they're in, because the recruiters are the first to get wiped out in the recessions. Go take a look at my networking video. I talk about so many of them. If you must, I have a template on what you should put that doesn't sound needy because you don't want to ask for a job. You want to build a relationship. Go look at that playlist or template for hiring managers and templates for recruiters down to geography in teaching you how to build meaningful connection. Meaningful is the keyword, so you don't sound like you're needy. SDET, software QA lead for 20 plus years. By the way, an SDET and a QA lead is 2 different languages, so you have to be very careful on how you present yourself. An SDET are really a true developer who actually could build an automation from scratch. A QA or quality assurance or quality engineer, not Not necessarily, because they primarily focus on building test cases and scenarios. So that's two different things. Scripting and coding languages are at least 500 or so lines. The field is outsourced to contract IT companies. Not necessarily. If you are an STED, it is not. If you are a full stack engineer who can build the automation, that skill is hot. You could also be a potential fit for an SRE as well if you are an engineer. How do I position and rebrand myself with bigger companies directly and find similar work? Exactly what I've just said before. Rather than looking for a test or a lead, look at what your core coding languages is and what have you built. If you are struggling, if you really need help and really need tip, I also wanted to show you my free interview blog. This is my webpage, which is hollylee.co. Over here, it is my blog. A lot of you guys, it sounded like you're going through the interview process and also how to land interview and whatnot. I talk about the power of a recruiter at Amazon. It's really the power of a recruiter at any employer right here. I talk about how to negotiate your salary, and I gave you a lot of tips on each of these blogs. Okay, this is very, very Amazon heavy, but use it as any employer, any interview, because I talk about resume tips and your biggest mistakes to avoid. It sounded like I have quite a few questions on resume today. That's why I'm sharing this with you. And if you want to learn what the leadership core principles are, I have the blog for every single topic you could possibly think of here. It's all free, by the way. You don't even have to sign up for it. All you have to do is click on it. Have a good time, and I will talk to you guys next Tuesday.